to the Light Gate. Tonight's going to be a really cool show, and I just wanted to open up by letting you know who we are and where we're coming from. It's the Light Gate. We're coming to you from the United Public Radio Network in the beautiful city of New Orleans at 107.7 and the United Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Roku, and I'm sorry that y'all can't see us, but we will endeavor to explain everything so you're not left out. And we're on YouTube and Facebook and many other platforms. We hope you have a great show with us, and let's go. Okay, Preston.
Hi, Dolly. Thanks very much. I'm excited. We have a good guest tonight. How are you doing, Dolly?
I'm good.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. I'm pretty excited. And this is going to be our 10th episode, so we're hopefully getting the hang of it a little bit better. But I see lots of people in chat, so I just want to say a quick hi to some of you. There's Doxy. You were here very early, time traveling from Australia. I love that. And here's Robert Allen Yaffe. Always good to see you here. And there's Tammy. Hi, Tammy. Wait. We won't make you wait too long. Sorry. Probably you've heard that a million times. So I apologize for that. But there's Ruth Kleber. Kleiber? I think it's Kleber. I'll go with that. You can correct me, Ruth, if I get that wrong. Hi, Dawn Curtis. Awesome to see you. Louise, I've seen you here before, so thank you for joining us. And here's Janice Connett. Thank you for coming. I'm excited to see you all here. Tommy G, Night Gazer. Alex G says hello from Texas. Christopher Harmon. Really cool to see all you here. Great Troll. I definitely recognize you. And Real Badger. Let's see, who else do we got here? Chad Smith Podcast. Awesome. Thanks for coming. Debbie Majeski. Scuba Maru. I know you well, at least through YouTube. Delina, Terry D, Night Gazer. Nancy Thames. Hi, Nancy. There's a lot of you here. 1R Wedding. Golden Boy says hello from Poland. That's awesome. And here is Chris Space Team. Raul, Jesse Melendez. Well, I could say hi to you guys all night long. So I am just going to dive into our show because we have a very exciting guest. This is someone that both Dolly and I know pretty well. She has her own podcast, which we've both been on. And I know she has a lot of really interesting experiences. And her name is Karen Holton. So she is, let me just read her bio here, an experiencer, an exopolitical activist, an ascension coach, and more. She's actually done quite a few things, really working very hard for the good of all humanity. She's part of the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, and as part of this, she hosts the weekly podcast, Quantum Guides Show. That's the show Dolly and I were on. And this show is aimed towards the newly awakened and for those who are awake, but may be socially isolated by their alternative beliefs. I know what that's like. My family thought I was crazy when I started talking about UFOs and out-of-body experiences. It was a bit isolating. I could have used Karen. Karen also hosts the new podcast, Aliens and Angels, which focuses on personal paranormal experiences. Karen has spent more than a decade researching and educating the public about the nefarious global agendas here on Earth. And we all know that that's a real problem. But soon after, she did receive a spiritual download and as a result created the Quantum Health Transformation Program to assist others to heal, evolve, and thrive. And this is actually available for free on her website. She has got a lot of stuff out there to help people. Karen, of course, has had many experiences with spiritual healing. I'd love to hear about that. Paranormal events, angelic encounters, and what I'm certainly most interested in are her ET encounters. And I've talked to her about that, and I know they're very extensive. And in fact, Karen is currently writing a book about her ET experiences. She's also created many products and services and is working hard to assist those who are waking up during these critical times. she does have, websites and all kinds of stuff, and we'll put those links in the show notes. But let's just bring Karen on because I know she has a lot to share today. There she is.
Hi. I miss you guys.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's actually cold here today and rainy, so I'm a little bit bundled up, but you never know. How's it been there? It's been hot?
92 today and raining, so we're humid and sweltering. Yep.
Oh dear. Okay.
You're actually up in Canada, right?
Pardon?
You're up in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in Alberta, Canada. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm in Canada,
Very cool. Well, Canadians are known for being super polite. No.
I'm just kidding. I try. I do try. I'll behave myself.
Good. Well, you can be naughty if you want. We'll allow it. So yeah, we do have a lot to talk about, and I'm not sure where to start because you've done and experienced so much. But I always like to start with childhood and the first glimmerings of the supernatural and ETs and how you kind of started on this pathway to what you're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? What was the first thing that sort of made you go, is this normal?
Well, I was very young when I started having paranormal experiences, and I thought that they were normal, and I thought everybody had them. I didn't know that they were paranormal experiences. I just always had, I would say the most common experience I had was knowing that I wasn't alone in the room. I knew that there were other beings that were with me that I couldn't see. And but I didn't know what to do about that. So I would go to my mom or family or whatever, and they would say, oh, don't be talking like that. People are going to think you're crazy. Don't ever mention that to anybody. And so I sort of started to self-regulate very early. And then I got involved with churches, and all the churches said the same thing. Oh, it's the work of the devil, and you're opening yourself up. If you're going to open yourself up, then you're not welcome here. You got to just, be 100% for God and this and that. And so I became actually afraid of my abilities and what I was perceiving as real. And it caused me to have a few problems. Like it caused me to become very afraid of the dark, even as an adult. But it was in the...
Wait, let's back up a little bit. What were some of these experiences as a kid?
Well, okay, I'll just give you a couple. I had a brother 4 years older than me, and he was really a mean SOB. And he used to like to lock me in the closet. It was dark in there, and I couldn't see anything. But I could see the room outside of the closet with my eyes closed. So,
wow.
And it really helped a lot because I just waited and I could see, he's out there laughing and stuff. So there's things like that. I also would get spontaneous knowings and also spontaneous communication. But like I said, very early on, I started to shut all that down. I also had a natural ability to communicate with animals and plants. And it didn't matter what I did. I was just the weirdest kid in the block. And it hurt me socially for sure. But and then I shut it down. So I would say I was about, I don't know, maybe grade 4. So I'd be about 10 years old when I started going to churches and stuff. And then they really, nobody wants to piss God off. And basically they said, if you're going to talk like that and think like that, God's not going to want anything to do with you. And it was always, the onus was always that there was something wrong with me. And so it was very liberating to quit religion. And no offense to anybody out there who's got a religious affiliation. If it's working for you, great. I'm happy for you. But for me, it really did me a lot of harm. And so, just like a compressed spring after I quit religion for good. And it doesn't mean I'm not spiritual. I totally believe in God. Heck, even the ETs believe in God. That's not a foreign concept. Or a strange thing to believe in, but I just no longer would let humans tell me what God wanted from me. So that left room for me to find out directly what God wants for me. And then I had an angelic experience about the 1990s. I won't get into that. There's tons of podcasts with me talking about it, especially lately. Everyone wants to hear about it. I just don't want to take up the whole show with it. Basically, I'll tell you, it was an extremely low point in my life. You really want to hear it?
The first one. I want to hear the first one out the gate.
I only had one angelic experience.
Okay. Wow.
But it opened me up for everything else. So basically, my life was a mess. I was a hot mess, no doubt about it. I did everything wrong, and including marrying the wrong people, and just did everything wrong because I kept going for external advice, external experts. I had no faith in my own ability. So at one point, I had been divorced from my husband. It's a little bit sad, but I'll try to keep it short. And when I left religion, I just sort of opened myself up to I started having all these psychic experiences, just basically spontaneous knowings, things I had no way of knowing, but I knew. My former husband said, well, I think it's time for your children. I had 2 children with him to come and live with me and my new wife. It's our turn to have a try at it. And I thought, well, it can't hurt. And they promised not to keep the children from me. But as soon as the kids got moved down, and it was quite I was on Vancouver Island, they were on the mainland. It was, a fair jaunt to get down there. And then he kept them from me. And my mother, who was I'll just tell you, I spent the last bit of religion. What really did it for me was I spent 17 years as a Jehovah's Witness. And my mother was a Jehovah's Witness. So when I left, boy, was she livid. And so she also wanted to keep the children away from me because I was just demonized. As far as everyone was concerned, I was either crazy or I was demonized. It was pretty harsh. So I fell into a huge my frequency, this is just how I look at it, was very low. I was in grieving and mourning and confusion. And when you leave a religion like that, you're shunned. So everyone says you're dead to God, you're dead to us. So 17 years of community, friendships, everything gone. And I was devastated. In retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because these experiences define us and help us to make huge shifts that might not be possible otherwise. But anyway, while I was living in this little place, I kept having the urge to want to kill myself, and in a very specific way. And what's really strange about this is, I'm just going to jump ahead a bit. 2 years later, I met a woman, and she asked me where I lived, and I told her, and she said, oh my God, do you know what happened in that house? And I said, no. And she told me that she was friends with the mother of a man who lived there, and that he had offed himself in that house. And she told me how he did it. It was exactly the same as what I had picked up on. So I think when our frequency gets really low, we can tune into other frequencies and kind of like echoes of what has happened in the vicinity where I was living. So anyway, but that night I had an angelic visitation, and I didn't ask for it. They chose to make themselves known to me. Now I'm saying they because the experience, I'll just tell you very quickly how it went. It appeared as like the stars in the sky in the image behind me, like 1,000 points of light, and it was all flashing out the sides, each point, and it looked like wings, and it looked like angels. Now I'm filtering this experience through my own perceptional arena. And so I don't even know, is it ET? Is it angels? Like, who knows, right? Like there's a lot of overlap, I think, in the metaphysical realms.
Yeah, sure.
So anyway, and when they spoke, it was like 1,000 voices, but in perfect synchronization, like one voice. And they basically told me that if I wanted to leave my mission in life or my human existence, I could do that. There are exit points. But, is that what I really wanted? And I said, hell no. I said, I just tired of having a shitty life with nothing but problems and not knowing what the hell's going on. And I didn't know at the time I'm also neurodivergent. So I have a little bit different way of presenting and understanding and dealing with information than other people. Well, we didn't know any of that back then. So anyway, I said, no, I just want a better life. And I was 42 years old. And I said, I'm done with this shit. I'm not doing it anymore. And they said, well, we want to give you a gift. And I said, well, what do you mean by a gift? And they said, that's up to you to decide. And I said, well, I can't just tell you right now. I said, I'm overwhelmed with this whole experience. Can I think about it? And they said, of course you can. Karen, we're never far away from you. We're never far away from you. And anytime you tell us what you need, and we'll make it happen for you. Now, at the time, I was very naive because I didn't really understand what the nature of the gift would be. But anyway, so I thought about it for a few days. And of course, I decided not to off myself, which is probably a really good thing in retrospect. And so I was out walking, I was thinking, and I thought, well, gee, if I had like $1 million, boy, that would sure cure a lot of my problems. Maybe I need money. And I thought, nope, that's not it. And then I thought, well, maybe if I was really popular or beautiful, if everybody loved me, maybe that would fix everything. And I went, no, that's not it. I just knew it wasn't it. And I just kept thinking of all these things. And then I realized what I needed was wisdom. Because if you have wisdom, you can provide for yourself. You can have the right kind of company, everything. I could fix my life and have a decent life. And so I asked for wisdom. And the weirdest part about this is that they said, do you want the quick method or the slow method? And I went, I want the quick method. I want the quick method, right? I didn't want to spend any more years making all these mistakes and screwing up and everything. And that was sort of the end of it. I mean, they're always with me, and I can communicate anytime I need clarification or, but I often don't, because my job is to be a human being and to do it on my own. So anyway, after that, I thought the wisdom would just get poured into me, right? No. I had all kinds of challenges. Some of them were horrific, but the difference was they were always with me. And I always knew, could see timelines, and I could see where each timeline would lead me. Right. And so that's how I built up the wisdom. And people might think nowadays, well, Karen, you're not that smart. What do you mean you got wisdom? But I do have wisdom. I know what I need to do. I know what my mission on earth is. And I think that experience set me up for what came later, which was what I call my extraterrestrial experience, which was very, very different.
Well, you have to be careful what you wish for, because if you ask for patience, you're going to get all these events coming at you, which will test your patience. If you ask for strength, you're going to get all these events coming at you. It's going to take all your strength. Right. And I've talked to a lot of people who've gone through really amazing experiences. One guy was a Mormon, a very devout Mormon, and his religion just didn't support the things that were happening to him. So he ended up becoming more spiritual. I hear that quite a bit, that, people have a real hard time if they're devoutly religious when these things start happening. Not always, but yeah.
And I just want to tell you some of the things that it did allow for me. It allowed me to lose almost 200 pounds. It allowed me to become completely debt-free, which I've maintained to this day. It's allowed me things that you can't achieve if you don't have wisdom. And so I think it was the best gift to ask for, and it was the best gift I ever received. And the other thing, guys, it's made me strong like a diamond. I am a diamond, and I know that. And so I'm pretty unshakable. Doesn't mean I don't have bad days. Doesn't mean I don't have ups and downs, but I'm a diamond, and I'm really, really excited about that.
I want to ask you a question. Okay, what you're saying, I've been following you for a while, okay? And when I got introduced to you, I was quiet. I had my contacts telling me pay attention to this one, okay? And so I have. Let me ask you a question, because you're talking to me exactly how this all works. Your walk and talk with what you have coming at you and where we're going and what's going on around us. One of the things that I've learned over the years, because I have very many similar, issues as you do, is that it's not just what I need to deal with here, but now I start to see the truth everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
You can't lie to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm impenetrable with the lies. You cannot. I hear absolute truth, and it's upped my responsibility and my moral gain higher and higher and higher. And I found out that that's the kind of wisdom that you wear because you employ that type of wisdom. You don't let people run amok around you, and that people started noticing this about me, and actually the ones that really wanted to be cons and whatever or talk bad things to me or use me started to move away from me. They became uncomfortable in my presence. I'm
Yes.
wondering, are you experiencing that?
Oh, yes, I certainly do. And, but one of the things that I've asked for that's part of my wisdom package is to learn how to be gracious and kind to everybody, regardless of whether they're scoundrels or not, because I don't know their story, and I don't want to add to the negativity.
Yeah.
And so I've actually, practiced little scripts that I can use that are gracious and allow people to save face, even, but clearly no is no. And I'm really good at it. And I love it. I love saying no. There's terrific power in the word no.
Absolutely. You're a little bit further along with that than I am. I'm just now starting to get that. I'm more of a Valkyrie, and I solve all my problems by just letting everybody have it. And I've had the last few years just to back it down and learn that if I come out and I talk to people, I have to employ that kind of wisdom, that realizing that they're just like I am, no difference, and to hear what they say and to be gracious. Exactly. Good word.
Yeah,
Really.
but that didn't just spontaneously happen for me.
Right.
I've worked on it for years. I'm not kidding. And
Yeah.
I've also worked on my body temple for years. So that includes what I eat, what I think, what I choose for entertainment, for companionship, on and on and on. And it's taken me years. I mean, this happened in, I don't know, I would say, maybe mid 1990s. And I've been working on it ever since. I work on it every single day. And sometimes probably I work on it too hard, but it's just really important for me because I'm not getting any younger. I'm 67 years old. We don't know how long we've got on this planet. The last thing I want is to realize this is it, I'm dying, and go, oh my God, I missed the boat. I want to be something. I want to develop, virtues that I can take with me. I don't want to come back to Earth and do this crap over again. No way.
Perfectly put. That's the key's message to everybody on this planet. They want us all to take this path. All of us. You have to hear and listen to it, though. And I'm very pleased that you're talking this way. This is awesome. So, okay. So, what happened after you began that journey, and what was your first ET contact, virtual?
Well, that didn't happen until about, I'd say 2012, 2013. I'm not real clear because I was real sick at the time. I mean, like, this did not give me perfect health and perfect beauty and perfect money or any of that. To get where I'm at right now, which is a very, very good life, it was not a linear curve, right?
Right.
So it was the weirdest thing. Again, they contacted me. I didn't contact them. But I want to just go back a little bit and let you know that it's intergenerational. So my mother was very psychic and a natural healer, although she was freaked out if you talked about anything to do with ET or anything, because, being a JW, you can't do that. So, but her mother was very psychic, was a natural healer, and had ET experiences. So, and I knew about that, so I wasn't surprised. But basically what happened is, I just started having these experiences, and I'll just tell you what it felt like to me. I'm not going to tell you what actually happened because I don't know. I'm just saying this is how it felt to me. I would go to bed at night and I would wake up in the morning and I had all these adventures. And at first I thought I was dreaming, but I'd go to bed that night. I'd go to bed at night in my bed and I'd wake up in my bed. Now, I don't know if I was physically taken, etherically taken, like, who knows? Who knows? This is big stuff. But I had all these adventures, and I had more adventures than you could ever fit in to one night. So I may have had 3 weeks or 3 months or 4 months of adventure, and then wake up in the morning and I'm back, in my bed again. It was very strange. So at first I thought I was dreaming, and then I realized, no, I'm not dreaming because um, because when I dream, things are kind of disjointed and kind of hazy and don't necessarily make sense. And I may start off having one kind of adventure in a dream, but then it shifts to something else. It wasn't like that. This was absolute memory. And I thought, well, I wasn't surprised because of the angelic experience I'd had. But at the same time, I actually was a bit much. And so I actually worried that maybe I was just crazy, whatever that means. Maybe I'm
I've heard that a million times.
completely insane.
Always
Maybe I have some kind of weird high need for attention, or like, I don't know. I went through it all, but it just kept happening and happening every night. And it lasted for 3 months, every night for 3 months. And then it stopped. And I think I probably could go back, but I have so much to unpack and to present to humanity that until I get that job done, I don't really want to have necessarily more experiences. And the reason I remember, that was the other thing I was told, is that there's millions of us that are doing this, but most don't remember, because it's very difficult to reintegrate back into human life on planet Earth during these days. Very difficult. I got to tell you, it got to the point after about a month of this, I'd wake up in the morning and go, oh, shit, I'm back. Oh, God. And, after you spend time with these beings that are our next stage of evolution, and you see that they don't have the constructs that are confining us here, constructs of thought, things like racism and gender and all kinds of things, and religion. They don't have any of that. That doesn't even come up into thought, and then to come back here and to deal with everybody, it quite clearly looks like humankind is insane, completely insane. And it's scary and it's disturbing. But I knew
we are. I think we actually truly are.
So I had the mission, just first of all, it took me a couple of years, guys, to unpack this in my own mind, maybe longer. Even now, sometimes I'm still unpacking it, because it's huge. It's so huge. It's very can be sort of disorienting. So what I did from that point on is I told a few people, and everyone was just kind of going, yeah, well, that's Karen, ha ha ha. And I just stopped talking about it, and I actually stopped even integrating myself into my community, into my neighborhood, and even my family. I just had to sort of go, okay, I'm a stranger in a strange land when I'm here. It's the other life that's the real life. That's the life that's meaningful and makes sense. So then in the midst of all of this, I got what I'm going to call a download, which was a packet of a lot of information that I also had to unpack. And I took that information and I organized it into what I call the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation, which is an absolutely free program online. And it's everything we need to get ready for contact. And I can talk about that a little bit later if you want. But so I had to organize that, and there's so many things I had to do. Change my diet, and then a little later I'd change it again, and all kinds of work. It's been really a lot of work, and but I'm not complaining, because I am so satisfied with my life. I am so satisfied. I'm working on my book, and I told Preston 2 years ago I'm working on my book, and then I get stalled. There's reasons for that, but
do you consider part of this process that you're going through is actual personal healing for you?
Oh, absolutely. There's no separation between my personal healing, my personal evolution, my experiences, my training, on board the big ship. I call it the big ship. My relationships with other beings, my relationships with humans. There's really for me, I don't see any separation. Everything affects everything else, and it's all connected.
Right. Absolutely.
So you skimmed over a lot of what's going on here, because I know there's so much. I mean, we've talked about it. You have a lot of really amazing details to your experiences. So you're going on all these adventures, and first you're thinking, oh my gosh, is this dreams? I remember Dolly definitely mentioned that when she was a little girl. But this was when you were, not too long ago when all this started, right? So had you gotten any sort of physical manifestations, and like by that I mean any evidence that this was physical, any UFO sightings, any like waking up in the wrong way on your bed or something, you know what I mean, or anything
Yeah,
like that?
I mean, I have seen actually maybe 3 or 4 different kinds of UFOs. And and what's weird is that why would I look up to that exact spot in the sky at that exact time to see them? So I think there's a connection, right?
Oh, I'd love to hear about a couple of those. Like, what
Okay.
did you see? Yeah.
Okay. So
You don't mind.
okay, I'll tell you the coolest one. The coolest one is I was driving from Victoria on Vancouver Island up to Courtenay. So it's kind of like the southern tip to the midpoint, not quite the midpoint of Vancouver Island. And I was driving up at night, and the highway winds along, most of it winds along the coast. And I was getting kind of sleepy, and I pulled over on the right at a rest, sort of a rest, not really a rest stop, but a place you could pull off the main road. And I was just taking a little rest, and I was looking out towards the water, and I saw 2 lights that looked like headlights. And I thought, oh, there must be an island or something, and there must be a vehicle there that's facing me, and they can see my lights and I can see their lights. That must be what it is. And I didn't think much of it. Then I got back in the car, and I'm driving up island, and these 2 lights follow me. Well, there's no way there was any little island long enough that they could still be 2 lights facing in my direction for me to see visually. And they followed me all the way up to the next town. And the next time I drove down island again, I looked, and there was no island out there. There was nothing out there but water. So that was pretty cool and pretty, I don't know, obvious that it was UFOs or a UFO or whatever, something with two big bright lights on it.
Wow. Yeah, that is cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and another time I looked up, and I wasn't sure what I was looking at. So I was kind of squinting and really looking up there, and I realized it was a cigar-shaped, kind of silver in color object. And then at the right-hand nose of it, all of a sudden there formed a rainbow-colored, like a disc, a rainbow-colored like a disc. And as it went into the disc, it slowly got shorter and shorter because it was disappearing inside of this rainbow disc. And the rainbow kind of came out and covered it. And as it went in, it just sort of dissolved, and then the disc disappeared. So it'd be like looking at a disc sideways, like just the narrow side, and then it disappeared. And I thought, my goodness, that is cool.
Were you over land or over water when you saw that?
Land.
Okay.
It was over land when I saw that one. And then the third one that I saw, well, I've also seen orbs, but I don't really know what they are. I'm not sure what they are, so I don't class them as UFOs necessarily. But another time I was driving up island, and I saw this huge ball with a fairly short stream tail out the back end, and it was just like a ball of golden or copper colored glitter. And it was coming down, and I'm driving, and I'm trying to drive and watch this thing come down. And I passed by on my left side, sort of a low, they kind of look like mountains, but they're probably not tall enough to be mountains, so kind of high hills. A lot of the mountain or rocky bits are carved out for the highway, to go alongside between the water and the mountain. But so let's just say it was little mountains. And this thing just sort of landed out of my view at the top of one of these little mountains. And I thought, it must be a comet or something. And when I got home, I looked at through the news and everything, and there was no mention of a comet or anything like that. And I have no idea what that was, but it was pretty cool and very, very beautiful, very sparkly.
What color was it exactly?
Was this?
I would say kind of like if you took glitter that was copper and gold, and you put it in a big ball. So there's little tiny bits of copper and little tiny bits of gold. That's what it looked like. And it was shining, and the sun hadn't quite set, was starting to get low. It was just absolutely spectacularly
You saw a little tail coming out of it?
It definitely had a tail. It
Okay.
definitely had a tail,
you
but not a long
that
tail.
Can you estimate how high up that was? Do you have any idea?
Oh, well, at the closest point to me, maybe 100 feet.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, very close. This is not something, not like the cigar shape that was so far away. I was like squinting to see it. No, this was really close.
Well, it's significant because it's a rare contactee that doesn't have multiple sightings. And that's definitely something I look for. And when something is close, that's even more of a, well, red flag, I guess, would be one way of putting it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's, and were these going on when you were having these nighttime adventures? Was that the same time
no,
period?
this was before that. This was before. This was after I left religion, after my angelic experience, but before my ET experience.
Okay, because that is a pattern too. They will introduce themselves sort of and get you prepared. So here is a question I want to jump in because this sort of relates to the fact that you're having these things going on at night. And this is from Robert Allen Yaffe. And this is a good question. He says,
It is.
Did the adventures leave you exhausted when you woke up?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Exhausted is not the word for it. Like even weak, physically weak. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend of mine who I think is a contactee, and she said basically the same thing. She's like, "What was I doing all night? I felt like I was praying."
Well, now of course I was doing, expeditions on planets. I was doing, exopolitical ambassador work. I was learning so much about the culture, learning how to talk without my mouth. You see, the ET beings that are on the big ship, they're real tidy around their mouth. They're not like us. Like it would be offensive for me to be talking the way I am now to them. We're loud and we're juicy and we got teeth, and they don't do that. It's all done through telepathy. And so learning how to quiet my mind and be more purposeful and mindful about my thoughts. That was the biggest chore of being there.
Well, yeah, Dolly talked about how some of her experiences would go on for a long time, and really it's just one night, a week or two.
There's a time dilation for sure.
I would be gone for sometimes 3 weeks, almost a month one time, and come back within minutes of leaving. And I had to unpack myself at that point because it's like living two different lives.
It is. It really is, which is why I thought I was crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought.
I'm just.
These involve trips to another. I mean, what you perceive to be another planet, and ships, and I mean the whole deal, right?
The whole deal.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, what's the most? Okay, I'm dying to know this.
What?
I'm dying to know this. What do you have one specific place that you've been taken to that upended you? In other words, it's the one that left the most lasting impression on you. Do you have one?
That's a good question. There's so much, Dolly. I don't know. I remember the orientation process because that's when I first was there. I was just there, and I didn't know what was going on, but I never felt afraid. None of my experiences involved being afraid. There was nothing but harmony and peace and love. And people, I want to clarify something because, everyone's going, oh yeah, light and love. We're all in the love. We're all in the love. But what does that mean? Love is a basket it contains elements that are not easy to achieve. So when we love, it means that we're being patient with others. We're being mild with others. We're seeing the best in other people. We're doing everything we can to be good. And so once you're in an environment, that's what I call a loving environment, these beings, partly because they're intuitive and psychic, but nobody would ever do anything to harm or ruffle up another being. It wouldn't happen. In fact, and so there isn't that ego thing. It doesn't matter who's right, who's wrong. There's none of that going on. It's so peaceful, and I really like being there a lot. I'm hoping that when I die, maybe I can go back and just be there, because I really liked it a lot. The work was so meaningful. Do you want to know the different kinds of work they do up there?
Sure.
Well, I want to know everything. I want to know what they look like.
You
I mean,
know.
like these graves.
Okay, well, let me tell you.
I want to know their clothes. I want to know everything.
Okay, yeah, I got all of that. So, but I don't remember everything, guys. So feel free to ask. But if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, because I'm not going to make it up. I don't do that. So, so the beings look very much like us. Most are taller with larger frames. You know those pictures of the Anunnaki and stuff, you know, where they're super buff and they got the big beards and they got the big curly hair. Okay, well, they don't all necessarily even have hair. Well, some just don't wear their hair, but most of them are built like that. They're majestically beautiful. They're so healthy. They're so incredibly healthy. There's no sickness, you know, and they live for about 500 years, but procreation and partnering and all that stuff all takes place within the first 100 years. And the other 400 or longer or less, depending on what they want. They don't get old and sick and die. They just, when they've had enough and they want to move on to the next course, then they actually create ritual and ceremony around the passing, and you choose when you want to pass. But anyway, getting back to what they look like, but there's definite differences. And I'll tell you why. People say, well, where are they from? Are they from the Pleiades? Are they from this or that? No, they're not from any of those places. And the beings are from many different places. And I'm just going to call them places, because that can include also what I think are interdimensional realities. Preston, I sent you an image. I don't know if you can share it or not, but if you can't, that's okay. But if you think of a Venn diagram. Okay, so if you look at here, we have A, B, C, D, and E. Each of those ovals represents a dimensional reality. Now, this is also a really good template for why I think on Earth we can see, you know, Sasquatches and fairies and things. I think that there are places where there's overlap between dimensional realities. So Dolly and I, maybe we share the places where A and E connect and overlap. You know,
okay, before you go on, let me just describe this a little bit for the people who are just listening.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Yeah, because what we're looking at is about 6 or 7 ovals that are sort of in a
Actually 5.
Yes.
Yeah, and they overlap.
Yeah, a daisy sort of pattern, and they're overlapping. In the center, there's oval A, B, C, D, and E.
It's a good schematic to describe the fact that we're in a mainframe in this galaxy or our universe. Within our entire universe, there are 12 dimensions, and we overlay one another. We're all in the same space. It's just that you here in the third dimension can't look into or behind you into them at all. They can, though, outside of us, because they don't have space-time like we do. They can see through at us. They know we're here. They can communicate with us as well. People are walking around with, like, you know, guardian angels. It's really an interdimensional being that lives with you and watches over you a little bit. It's an interesting.
Yeah, well, this shows how these other dimensions aren't far removed from us.
Right there.
They're right here, overlapping. Yeah. So yeah, I like this, and it's beautiful too.
The big ship is sitting in the very center, A, B, C, D, and E. So here we're not only having beings who immigrate from different star quadrants and galaxies, we're also getting possibly beings from different timelines, from different dimensional realities. So that's where the ship is. And the beings are not from any specific place. So they immigrate and they live aboard the big ship. Many of them were born on the big ship. And there is also, partnering, or what we would call marriage, between beings from different backgrounds. And so you can't, they're just so far from a homogenous group, it isn't even funny. And just like on Earth, you know how we have variations on skin tone, we have variations on sizes of noses, colors of eyes, whether our hair is soft and fluffy or curly, you know, like it's same thing goes there, and but with even more diversity because of all this other you know, potential from where they're from. So I thought there are some that are actually shorter than us, and they do have different cultures, but again, because they live by a love harmonic, which is very respectful and very peaceful, there's no conflict. We can accept each other for the way that we are, and it's nobody's made fun of. There's none of that because they're not insecure. Like, it's just so beautiful to see what our potential is, and to come back to earth and to see everybody backbiting and arguing. And it's so sad. It's so sad. I don't think it's everybody's individual fault or failing either. I think it's what's happened within what I call the matrix or the construct. And when we learn to step outside of that construct, that's where the true living is, and there isn't competition. So I've learned so much from these beings. But anyway, I'm going to tell you about two of the more unusual kind of people that I met, and I'm calling them people because they're my friends. They're my people. You know, I feel very connected to them. So one group have a way of picking up patterns on their skin. So, for instance, on Earth we have octopods like octopus, and we have those little lizards, and whatever they're over, they pick up the pattern and the coloring of that. They have little sensors in their skin. Well, these
it's cells that actually have photosynthesis in them that can actually turn on a color with an enzyme. And
yes,
it's like an array. Yeah.
Yes, and so they have the ability,
like cuttlefish. Yeah, they can do anything.
They have the ability to do that, and from their genetic history. And by the way, births are not regulated, but they are documented, so anyone can find out, you know, where they come from or whatever. But anyway, that I guess they used to camouflage. Well, on the big ship, they weren't camouflaging, but what was interesting is they chose the brightest and very complex pattern on their fabrics for the clothing they wore. And it would pick up a little on their skin, right? And it was just really, really beautiful. So there was that. And then another thing that I thought was really interesting is they had some beings who either their skin would create pigment, or they have pigment, but the pigment can actually move on their face, and it actually gives away their more of their emotional content. So, for instance, if somebody's trying to get someone's attention across the room, they can get their attention and actually sort of, like, you know, come here or whatever. Yeah, through a little bit of rearranging of pigment. I thought that was really cool. And I didn't see any giants, but there was, like, my buddy everyone gets assigned a buddy during orientation, and my buddy, she's quite a bit taller than me, like at least a foot taller than me. And but she had fairly pale skin. They try to match us up to whoever's most similar to us in the beginning till we get used to our environment. And but her skin had kind of like a teal tone to it. So most of the beings we would consider people of color. There's not that many that are as pale as me, but sometimes they would have tones of sort of orange or tones of sort of teal, you know, but basically not a lot of difference, really not a lot of difference than here.
What about like food and restrooms and things like that?
Oh yeah, as soon as I tell the bathroom story, everybody sort of shuts off and goes, "Oh God, she's making that shit up," because it's
no, Dolly. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask. She's like, "Oh yeah, they have restrooms on board." Well, I heard only a few other people describe it, so that's why.
Let's do food before we do pooping, because it's go in that order. Okay. So the food on the big ship grows natural and in every department. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So the other thing we should probably get into is the big ship, because it's actually alive. It's actually a conscious being. And
Oh
it
wow.
has
We talked about that too. Yeah.
a circulatory system, and it has a respiratory system, but the respiratory is what gives us our atmosphere. The circulatory system is what gives us our baths, serves for the deconstruction and reconstruction of everything that we no longer use. So basically every day you end up with fresh clothes and fresh everything. It's really cool.
Yeah, they don't do
Well,
laundry ever.
I'll get into that a bit. But anyway, so the food goes everywhere, and you just sort of pick a few things what you want, and you go to the what I would call food stations, and it's the coolest thing. Now the ship itself, it has every capacity to do whatever it wants at any part of it that it wants at any time. I don't know whether it's nanotechnology or what. So we go to the area where we want to prepare our food or where we want to eat, and it's just like this system comes up from the floor and just forms. It just forms very quickly right in front of you. There's no pixelation or anything like that. It just comes up and it forms. It has both heating and cooling, and everybody just lies around because when you lay on the floor becomes extremely comfortable and sort of pliable to your body shape, right? And it's kind of like the old days of the Romans where they would sit around on these cots and eat. That's how we eat there. But anyway, different beings take pride in doing different things. Some make what we would consider cheeses, and some make fermented things and sauces, and they have their little speciality. And because everything's abundant, you don't have to pay for anything. Everybody just shares everything. And so the food was just a fabulous, fabulous experience. And generally we would eat one full meal a day with probably another one that was more of a social snacking meal. We didn't eat a lot, not like we do here on Earth. And so that's the food in one end and out the other. So the bathroom I discovered in orientation. So, and this is the other thing that's confusing about my experience is I had absolutely physical experiences there. Right. Even though I have no evidence that I was physically there. Like, I know that's weird. So in orientation, anyway, my buddy, she was really kind. So anyway, after I met her and stuff, then we went down this corridor, and I'm going to tell you the shape of everything is different than here. It's not all cubicle and square the way we have it here. In West Coast Native art, they have a symbol called an ovoid, and it's not a circle. It's kind of flat on the bottom, and that kind of circles over the top. It's a really beautiful basic symbol for their artwork. Well, that was sort of the shape. When you go down the corridors or you're in the rooms, they're all in that shape. None of them are square. There's no corners anywhere that I saw. So anyway, so we're going down this corridor, and then she turns to the wall, and I'm looking, and all of a sudden just a door appears, like not a door like what we have, just an opening. And we went in, and then the opening just disappeared. It's so cool. So everything becomes what you need. You see, the ship is also psychic, and it's conscious. So it knows what you need and where you're going, and it just provides it. I know it doesn't make any sense, but it's just how it was.
No, it does. Dolly talked all about this. Many contactees have told me this same sort of thing. This is what I love about what you're talking about.
I asked Talana how come there are no square rooms. I was like desperate to find one when I was a kid. Why? Why can't you do that? And he said it's not economical for me to do that. And I have to hold the position of it it's just too angular. We don't do angular. And I went,
they don't do angular. They don't do angular. Nothing was angular that I saw there. So anyway, so we're in there, and then she just motioned to the wall, and out from the floor came this platform, and it had like a big giant cushion on it. And she just motioned for me to lay down and try it. And I laid down. It was ever so comfy, and I knew that was my bed. And then I got up. I didn't know how to really communicate with telepathy at that point. My thoughts are all over, and I'm sure everybody could hear everything, what I'm thinking, whatever. I don't know. But and then I had to pee. And she knew I had to pee because I had to pee. And I guess I was saying it loud. I've been told that I'm a very loud psychic communicator. I'm very loud. In fact, I have to work at
We are. Yeah.
pulling that back.
Stop screaming.
Yeah. So anyway, so then another little door appeared. So this was my quarters, and a little door appeared, and I went inside, and then the door disappeared behind me, and out from the floor came another little platform, and I would say it was about maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, not that big. It just came out from the floor, and then out from the center of that came this thing. It was like a tube, but it was oval, and it was like about maybe this big around, and it was kind of pleated. When it came up, it was kind of pleated, and I knew that was where I parked it. So I dropped my drawers, park it, do my business, and when I was done, it was interesting. There was kind of like a little poof of air, and then the whole thing just collapsed down, and the platform just went back into the wall, and I was dry and clean. Like you don't have to use toilet paper or anything. This, whatever this is that's in this little poof of air, it just sort of, I don't know if it's enzymes or what, it just kind of dissolves anything and dries it. And it's just, you're just.
Wow, this is astonishing to hear, because this is so similar to what Dolly has described to me. It's funny, when I first started talking to you, I'm like, Dolly, you're going to have to meet Karen. She reminds me so much of you. And I hadn't heard any of this, but just
Well, how could I know it, and how could Dolly know it? And we never swap stories, So I'm just saying. Anyway, so that was the bathroom. I thought that was really, really cool. And the same thing, if you wanted, a shower, or you wanted a basin for water, it all happened the same way. Anyway, so that was fantastic. And when we left, she didn't tell me, but indicated, I guess, because it's telepathy, that I should think of something that I like from home. And I was thinking of a bunch of tulips that were different colors, and the image of that was then on the wall, so I knew where to find my quarters if I came down there without her. And she stayed with me like 24/7 until I was really comfortable being there on my own, which she slept next to me, everything, until I felt really comfortable.
Mine was a fuller brush from home. It's a big wooden brush, from the Fuller Brush Company.
Yeah.
And it was chunky, and they brought it up for me, and I left it there. I thought I lost it. I'm not kidding you. I was like, where the heck? It was there. It's still there to this day.
I know another lady who said it was a teacup. That was her teacup that she had. So I guess this is a thing. Wow.
Well,
I want to know who the female is that you're talking about.
Yeah, what's her name?
She doesn't have a name. Nobody has names, but the closest that I could say is, and this is me very inaccurately trying to describe her, is peaceful blossom narrow tongue, because her ancestry came from people from I don't know where, some world where they actually fed from these huge lotus type blossoms, and their food, their sustenance. And so their tongues are longer than a little bit, well, actually quite a bit longer than my tongue, maybe twice as long. And so her jaw was kind of narrower, and her tongue was narrower and longer. She showed it to me. I thought it was actually really cute. But she was beautiful. She was very tall, and she had, have you ever seen those guinea pigs where they have all the little cowlicks all over them? Their hair is all in these little swirls. Well, her hair was like that, and bright orange. Her eyes were like brown with gold highlights. Her skin was very pale, similar to mine, but more with a teal tone to it. And she just wore kind of like a poncho, just a very simple poncho. So they don't have the same, social norms that we have about clothing. Some wear very little, some wear lots. Some really like to be draped in a lot of fabric.
You want to hear something funny? I want to tell you this. I got to tell you this.
Okay.
Preston got a report from somebody talking about an ET that had really long, tall, orange hair. Okay. And he described very much like what you're describing. He didn't describe the tongue, but I knew it was there. I've seen the males of that group, and they wear their hair straight up. Like, like we do the Indian thing, they wear their hair straight up. The males do, because they think they're beautiful that way. And when he told me that, I didn't hear this story yet. This is the first time I've heard this. You're making me laugh because they do exist. They really are. They're there. You know.
Well, guys, we need to take a quick station break. So just hold on a second. I want to let everyone know you're listening to The Light Gate. This is episode 10. I'm Preston Dennett, your host, and my lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron. Our guest tonight is Karen Holton, experiencer, and so much more. You are listening to the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM, coming from the beautiful city of New Orleans. Also, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3. We're also streaming on numerous platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, is it? Roku even?
Roku, yes. Yeah.
And several others. We're definitely getting out there. And we're now on our second hour. The questions in chat are stacking up, Karen. So I never ever have enough time to get to them. So I want to start putting some of them out. But before I do, well, this is kind of related. I'm assuming that they're teaching you all kinds of things, right? All these different sort of classes and information and wisdom. So here is a question from DGK, and I don't know how well this applies or if you can answer this, but he asks, would Karen have learned what Earth was like before the last ice age during these adventures? So I'm sure they taught you all kinds of things. I'm not sure if they told you about, prehistoric Earth or before this iteration of our civilization.
Well, I don't know if it's like Earth right now is extremely dysfunctional, and most of the beings on the big ship have never heard of Earth. Unless I'm communicating with them about my experience on Earth, they would not even know about Earth. Most of them wouldn't even know about it. So what happens is they would be so disturbed if they knew what was going on and how we live. They would be so disturbed. These are gentle, gentle people. But what I did learn, and more pertains to the question, is that this is the fifth reseeding of Earth. Earth has been, for whatever reason, whether it's like ice ages or natural cataclysms, or like today, nefarious beings, that don't have the best interests of the population or whatever, right? This is the fifth reseeding. So I don't know what the Earth was like before the last ice age. No, they never told me that. And in fact, we don't talk about Earth much. It's disturbing. What's going on here? We're steeped in it. We don't even. I'm sure many of you must know how disturbing it is. But it would be like subjecting children to, I don't know, a horror movie. To be honest.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. So what kind of things do they have classes there? Do you go there? Because Dolly talks about how she learned how to fly.
Yeah, I got the boat ride. I was so conscious. Okay. The difference between me is I started really young. Okay.
Yeah.
I was in school young, and I had more time than you have to pan out everything and learn it from a young person to an older age. And so, I know a lot about our history galactically, our galaxy, our solar system, all of it. And what they've taught you about the five, that's generally what they do give out to the older people. There are five. Actually, the people on this planet who do study, archaeology and geotectonics and anything that would give them a clue as to what went on here, they know that there are the last five they have evidence of, and they don't talk to people about it. So you've been given what's obvious to us right now, and we should know. And if you're going to teach it, because it's important for us, everybody here, to realize that this is not a permanent place for us.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for a reason, and things happen. We got a 12,000 year cycle on this planet, and we have to understand that we're not here to act like idiots. We're not here to hurt one another or not be able to communicate, and we don't communicate. We use language, and it's not specific enough. It doesn't give you what you've learned, volumes of information all at one time. Concept is just gone for people. Common sense is gone for people here. Truth is gone for people here, and they don't communicate. with their minds, and they should. So, but
Now,
yeah, you got
if
the
we all
file.
had telepathy, it would be such a different world. And that's
Right.
what's so amazing about where you're having these
Well,
experiences.
we do have it. We just have had it shut down and had it replaced with language.
Exactly.
And,
That's fair. Yeah.
Yep.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I was going to say the learning environment is very interesting. The other thing I want to tell you, it's nothing like being like, I love one of my favorite science fiction series and genre is Star Trek. Well, it's nothing like Star Trek. In Star Trek, you've got all these people sitting at stations with screens and they're touching all these dials. There was none of that, absolutely none of that going on there. And we had quite a bit of free time, but we had different ways of learning. So the primary, I would say the two primary ways that we learned is one through our tablets. And I know this sounds quaint because we have tablets here, but these look like sort of plexiglass or glass. They're fairly thin. They're a little bit rounded corners. They're all rectangle shaped. And there's no dials or buttons or import docking, anything like that. It just looks like it's an inanimate piece of glass. But on it, we can either look at things in two-dimensional or in three-dimensional, more like a pop-up hologram.
Right.
But the other thing that was really cool was don't confuse it with what we have here on Earth. You know how on Earth they have that virtual reality where you put on the goggles? Well, it wasn't like that. It was like just a little band that went around, put it on the back, and it went around and it sort of stopped here, just like a little band. And at that point, it helped us to communicate directly with the big ship. And the big ship had a thing that it's similar to what we have here called the cloud, where all the information is there and we could just access it. So it'd be like reclining, putting this on, and kind of like lucid dreaming. And that's how we would learn. So for instance, I was training to do botany work. That's the other thing I want to tell you, the primary purposes of the beings on the ship. One is to host the exopolitical meetings where all kinds of beings come together and make decisions on, courses of action. I don't know, it could be anything. And I have the least amount of memories from that kind of work, but I know I do that kind of work. I still do that kind of work. I don't need to remember it. It's something that I just go and do, and it's very etheric. But the other experiences were very physical. So then there are the beings that are just, they act as hosts and they act as crew, to the big ship, and they live there and they interact with some of the other big ships, and there's a cross kind of updates and culture and different things like that. It's very, very a lot of emphasis put on culture. Then there's also the expeditions where we go to other worlds and we do just gather information with our tablets. And when we do that, we stick to a very small area. The area is quarantined. We have no interaction with the animals. We just gather information. And we go through the actual experience of being on the planet and what it was all like. Later, when we're back on the big ship, it's all put together into a giant kind of a holographic representation of the biosphere. So they're very ecologically minded. And they would never just take people, like, for instance, on Earth right now, if there was a comet going to come and exterminate humans, they're not going to just evacuate everybody off and put them into these beautiful, pristine worlds. Not until we evolve to the point where we're trainable and we can live in harmony and peace. If we can't do that amongst ourselves or even within the families, our families of origin, they're sure as the heck not going to put us into these beautiful places. So there's many, 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 many worlds. They have everything except humanoids. They've got the fish and they got the plants and they've got the atmosphere and they've got everything. And so we gather all that information. And they do facilitate, and that's the third thing that they do, a resettlement, an intergalactic resettlement program for societies that have evolved to the point where they can be resettled and not screw up where they're going to be placed. You know what I mean? There has to be a certain level of maturity. The other thing I want to talk about is the healing pods, because I was taught that you can't just take a human off of Earth and stick them somewhere, say in Alpha Centauri or something like that. Every planet has its unique frequency, its unique atmosphere, gravity, nutritional content of the foods. Everything is a little bit different. So I was shown in my orientation this huge room, like more like a huge auditorium, like the size of a baseball field, football field. Now remember, the ship is so large, it hosts millions of beings, like a New York or San Francisco, like a huge city. Okay. So anyway, we went in there and there was all these sort of bean-shaped pods everywhere. Some were as short as like 5 feet long, and some of them were really long, like 35 feet long. So I assumed they were for giants. Anyway, we went up to one that was about my size, a little bit bigger, and she just motioned to it and it opened up kind of like a clam. And I got inside, and the underneath me was very moss-like and kind of moist, the way if you ever get a chance to go into an old growth forest, and the way the air is very moist and full of all this energy and essential fragrances from all the trees and bushes and everything. And it's all very, very lovely experience. Anyway, so the lid came back down. And to be honest with you, I fell asleep. I have no idea how long I was in there, but it was a very, very beautiful experience. Then it would open up and I'd get out and I'd feel like $1 million. So we use these to recondition before we go down to a planet so that we can be comfortable there. We also use them early in the orientation process so that we can acclimatize ourselves to living on the ship, which is kind of like a neutral environment for beings with all kinds of different, perhaps biological needs. So that was just sort of how that happened. So I wanted to mention that because I think it's quite important. There's a lot of people who claim to travel to a lot of different planets and stuff, and I believe them. Why wouldn't I? I don't know. I don't necessarily expect people to believe me, but I suspect they would spend some time in these healing pods to be conditioned so that they could go and do that.
Right. So do these experiences evolve as you went on? And I know you're writing a book, but Robert Allen Yaffe has this question. So do you enter your experiences in a journal?
No, I don't. I just go straight from memory, which is partly why I'm doing the book. And that's partly why the book isn't done, is because I don't always have instant recollection. Sometimes I'll think about something and I go, yes, that's what happened, right? Because then I remember. It's not, because that'd be a lot of information to be packing around in my conscious mind all the time. You know what I mean? So, and in the beginning, I thought I was dreaming, and then I thought I was crazy. And then it took me a couple of years. I was really disoriented for a couple of years. Like when you have an experience of this magnitude, you don't just wake up and make your coffee and hang out with your friends and go back to your old way. Your whole life changes. Your perceptual arena, everything changes. And I wish to hell I had written it down, but I didn't.
Well, that kind of speaks to this question coming from Dana Matthews, which is certainly what Dolly has described to me. Are you able to compartmentalize all areas of your life with all this going on? And do you feel peaceful about it? So you're saying it did cause strife in the beginning, but how do you deal with all this?
Since I learned how to exit the construct, it's a lot easier. So let me just tell you, I am not normal in any way anymore, and I'm never going back to the way I was before. So what happens is I don't need to compartmentalize it. What I do is I live very much in the present moment, in the now. And so if I get a memory or something comes to me, then I think about it. Otherwise, I might be working on one of my character defects or something like that. Like, it's a very different reality when you step outside of the construct. And the more you do it, the more addictive it becomes, because you're just in that present moment. And so it's just beautiful. And you look out the window and there's birds. I mean, at 7:00, I have to go and meet with Preston and Dolly because I got a show tonight. There's some of that for sure. I have to keep a journal, a day timer, right, to keep track of what I'm doing. But most of the time I'm in the flow. I'm in this amazing flow. And what's so cool about it is you can actually expand time and contract time depending. I know every bird in my yard. I know their little personalities. They got their little dramas going on. Like my life, I'm not thinking about politics. I'm not thinking about, oh my God, what does my butt look like in these jeans? Like I do not have normal thoughts anymore, because that's kind of the matrix and the construct that keeps us confined and keeps us from being free and discovering what's on the inside.
You're becoming a very wide open psychic. Every day is a new journey.
Oh,
so a new event coming in at you, different thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a smorgasbord in front of you, and you can go this way or this way or this way and experience so many things. And it's weird because at some point you realize you're looking into other dimensions with your own mind.
Yeah. You can go anywhere, and you can do, and you're not imagining it. I mean, you are and you aren't. Like a lot of people don't get what the pineal gland is all about. The pineal gland is actually, can I talk about it just for a minute?
Yeah, of course.
I think it's an important part of this. The pineal gland is a gland in your brain, and it's got rods and cones on the inside. Rods and cones, which are what give us vision, allow us to see. And it's lined with those. And then what happens is our bodies produce these gases that the eyes see and create meaning out of. Well, that's the housing where this other dimensional realities can then interface. And so angelic beings, ET beings, they can help sort of direct what the pineal gland is seeing. And so when I close my eyes and I see something, like if I close my eyes and I imagine a big, beautiful orange rose or something, right? That's because this is what I'm seeing inside this little gland. Is the coolest thing.
I want to give you a heads up. Okay. I'm going to teach you something you don't know. Okay. You're due. You're due. You need to understand this. Your pineal gland is part of your endocrine system, and it does perceive light and dark. It knows day and night. It regulates your circadian rhythms, but it does something else. It is a transponder. It is a receiver of brainwaves. It also receives the thoughts and brainwaves of other things outside of you. It is the conscious connection between your higher self, your consciousness, who you really are, and your physical mind. Okay. And what you're seeing when you close your eyes and you're opened up, your third eye, they call it the third eye, is you're actually seeing what's really there energetically. You're able to see the energy of it. It's not that there's a gland in there or anything that is, you're seeing it like a TV tube. You're actually picking up the signals of everything around you. What you're talking about frequency is every human being has a frequency. Every being in the universe has a frequency. You think in a frequency. It's like a fingerprint. Okay. It's strictly you. When you feel low or depressed, you're dropping the volume on your ability to think out loud or to receive signal from somewhere else to help you. The most depressed people in the world are those that have dropped the volume so much in their thinking and frequency that they can't hear anything else. And that's a very dark place to be. Okay. So
yeah, when I'm when I have to fit into society, for instance, I go and stay with my daughter, for a week and visit the grandchildren and stuff. Or when I actually don't have a lot of social contact outside of social media, because it's very hard for me. I have to put myself back into the construct, back into a box, zip my mouth, control, be there, go back to the way I used to be. And I can do it for a short period of time, but not for very long. And if I have to do it, like when I'm staying at my daughter's for a week, it actually makes me sick. And then when I come home, then I can be free again. Absolutely free.
Yeah.
And
if you lock yourself up, you're not helping yourself at all. Breathe, just breathe. Let everything come in on yourself and smile. They don't know what's going on in here. But if you lock yourself up, you cannot transmit your thoughts to them at all. Okay. And the greatest gift you've got is your ability to do that. And if they're that closed mind, if they're that shut down, or they're that, they're the ones that need to hear the truth, not you.
Not when it comes to my daughter and her life. No, she is a very strong-willed person, and she's
pick it up.
made her own. made her own decisions on what's real and what's not. And that's how it is when I stay there. And those are the terms that I have to abide by.
You don't have to physically say it to her. Just breathe. Just be. What you know is the truth be evolving in your own mind. Don't say anything to them because you're transmitting without speaking. Okay? If you lock yourself up in a ball, that's got to be the most anxiety providing situation.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. It makes me sick. Makes me sick.
Don't do it. Just be you. You don't have to.
People will pick up on your thoughts, even if it's not fully conscious. Because like you say, we are all telepathic.
Right, exactly. And you might actually see things change a little bit around them. If you bend their will, you're doing exactly what everybody on this planet has been taught to do. They're forcing you to do that.
We have to shine our light. We have to. So I have another question, which I like, because in my experience with UFO research, people who are on these craft, a lot of it is all about healing. And I know that pretty much every major researcher has healing. And people talk about implants as well. From everything I've researched and learned about implants, it has to do with healing. So here's a question I find pretty interesting. I would love to know if you've had any healing experiences, because ED is asking, have you ever woken up with any healing devices implanted in your body? And I would just add to that, have you had any healings at their hands, or you know what I mean? In any way, or is it because what you do is all about healing?
I don't know. I have to think about that. I don't think I've ever woke up with a healing device implanted in my body. I don't think I have had, not that I'm aware of. No. Right. As for healing goes, part of my journey is to experience what a lot of people experience, and I have to experience that. And then I find my way out with the help, and then I write about it or, create content to help other people. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like I experience it, I find my way out, and then I share with other people how I found my way out. And I'm not saying that other people find their way out the same way, but it'll give them a different perspective that they can then go and look for themselves. Because I think everyone needs to find their true healing journey is within, right? Is within. And so, no, I never had everything I have accomplished, I have had to work for, but I've always had help. So no, I didn't get any like instant healing or don't have to wear glasses anymore, or no, I had to, and I primarily find my way out, and it almost always comes down to what I eat. And because I'm so sensitive, I can't eat what other people eat either. I have to be very, very careful on what I eat. So I don't fit into the construct at all anymore. Not even food. I never go to restaurants. There's no point. I can make exactly what I need and want at home for, fraction of the price. And I got to put that money into my website and my social media so I can keep getting the message out.
Right.
So you're writing a book. How far along are you in this book?
I'd say about 70%. One of the problems I'm having is I'm using Microsoft Word, and it keeps trying to grammar correct me. And it really upsets me and confuses me, because I want to use my own creative license as I describe things that we don't have necessarily language for. So it's not going to come across necessarily the way perfect grammar is supposed to be. But it's even worse than that, because it's like they want to dummy me down to very basic sentence structure, and I don't get to use my creative ability. And so I'm struggling with that all the time. Even the spell check can be annoying.
Have you tried Dragon?
Pardon?
It's called Dragon.
No, I don't have good success with Dragon. I don't know if I don't talk right or what, but when I've tried Dragon naturally speaking before and just talk into it, no, it doesn't. There's so many mistakes that I just get screwed up. The other thing too is, like I told you, I'm neurodivergent, but I also am recovering from a brain injury. And so it's very difficult for me to, what I think and how it comes out my mouth is not necessarily the same thing. And so, when I'm typing, when I'm typing, sometimes it takes a fair amount of effort to get it to be, and I want it to be as close to my experience as possible.
Do
So
what my
that's
dad
sort of a
did.
hold up.
My dad was neurodivergent. He was dyslexic. Okay, he couldn't read something and get it. He had to read it into a tape recorder and then listen to it. Okay, but you
Yeah, my
can use
reading skills are very, very, very poor too.
that.
What it is I don't generate
Yeah.
the imagination images of the words. I look at the words and I have to literally
Okay.
define what each word means in order for me to read. And then that takes all the joy. I just want to throw the book out the
Well, I'll give
window.
you a better
Don't
platform.
do that.
So,
Get a tape recording system and talk into the system. You speak it and find somebody to transpose it or whatever, put it onto paper for you, and then you go back and you have a computer system that just reads it out. It reads the book after you've typed it in, and then you can hear what you've written and then make corrections as you go along. In other words, it's a little couple more steps, but you can speak into a tape recorder, have somebody put it on paper for you, word for word, and then you go back and let a computer read it back to you so that you can see where you need to make small changes. I think you do really well doing that.
Just keep at it. I know from having written
I'm
both.
just going to keep at it. I'm going to
Don't
just
give up.
I'm just going to keep at it, and I'm just gonna keep at it. Yeah, and
All right.
I'll get there. So
I have bunches of questions stacking up. So
okay.
here's another one. And I know you mentioned orbs, so maybe Dolly could comment on this. I have my own opinion about orbs. I think there can be spirits and ET as well. But Olivia asks, I would love to know what the orb is, because I just had an experience in my hotel room at Contact in the Desert in Indian Wells, California, and all I could do is watch it drift from the TV to the door. And you said you've had orb experiences.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are they?
I haven't had any for probably a few years now, which is interesting because I used to see them all the time. But what I think they are is okay. So we live in a three-dimensional reality. So we have what you call an X, Y, and Z axis. Axis, 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 right? So if you go to a fourth dimensional, you might have W, X, Y, and Z. Well, we don't have the W here. So I think the orbs are things that are that we're not seeing their true form. We're just seeing as if we dipped our toe into a lake. Only our toe would be in the lake. We're only seeing that little tiny representation of what that is. And I think Lala Bright, I had her on my show not too long ago, and she thinks that it could be things like ancestors, because or family members that have passed, or friends, or could be, all kinds of different things. And that's how they make their presence known. That's what she says, but I think it sort of fits.
My experience is that I had to learn while I was in training to be able to fly with the craft. Okay, the pilot knows all the coordinates. We're trained to go somewhere and remember it exactly where it was, and I have an eidetic memory. I can remember every marker. I don't even know how to explain that, but there's frequency and markers and transmitted places that I can reach because I know the numbers to it. I know the frequency of it. And if you ever knew what a monolith was, they're transponders and they're beacons for us to go to places, and I can tag one and get there. In this process of learning to join with the craft, the mind of the craft, the being that's in the craft, I had to learn how to remote my consciousness out of without going OBE out of my body. I just remote my conscious mind into, it's like a electromagnetic orb, giant ball. And it's created this one, okay? And we both meet in it with our minds, and we totally join minds, and we communicate back and forth with one another. I become the ship becomes me. In doing this, I learned a second thing that we do, and we used to call it spying. When we come to a place and we're looking for somebody, we remote out. The ship generally does it I can do it, but the ship will do it, the being in the craft. And when they do remote their mind out, you see it as a giant white orb. It's about this big, okay? And it's solid. It's not fluctuating or anything. It's a big white bright light, and it looks solid like a ball. And they come down and they look around. They're spying to see if they can see what they need to see. They come back. Their consciousness comes back up to the craft, and that's what they do. It's a type of spying. I learned that I can do it, but I'm not a great big white orb. I'm not that developed. I come out as a blue orb, a little one, about the size of a tennis ball. And I creeped myself out the first time I did it because I went by a mirror and I actually saw myself. I was like, holy cow, that's me. And then I had some friends actually say, come out, remote view us, come out to where we are, and we'll see if we can see you. And they did. They took pictures of it. You can see me as a blue ball. That is one way that ET uses orb tech. It's just their mind remoting out. What you said, though, when you're free of your body, you're light. And if you're hanging around with your family or coming to visit them, sometimes people see you as a ball of light. Okay. And it just depends on how developed you are at being energetic enough to be here. And I sometimes they can push out and try to look human to you. You see what you would call a ghost or whatever, but that is another way that an orb can occur. And then there are natural orbs that are on this planet. It's a natural phenomenon. They're electrical, and you can see ball lightning can be as small as a marble or as big as your house. And it rolls around and it does things, and people sometimes see those things, and it's any type of size. It just depends on the amount of electricity involved. Big high tension wires can arc off into orbs also and just roll across the sky, or they drop to the ground and they spiral around. Those are natural phenomena, but it's all light. It's all energy. Anyway, they have something in common with each other. That's what I was taught. That's what I learned how to do.
Cool. So. Preston, you're muted.
You're muted. Hold on. He's saying, just a minute. He's got to figure it out.
Sorry. Yeah. A lot of people do have orb experiences, and there's all kinds of photography of orbs, which I'd recommend being very careful about, because some of these are dust mites, I think. But yeah, orbs is a big thing in this field, and I think we're definitely searching for answers on it. So yeah, I appreciate you guys saying that. But I've got more questions from the chat, and here is one from Robert Allen Yaffe, who has a very kind of interesting question. What kinds of these experiences enhanced your ascension the most? That's a big one to unpack. So I don't know how you can. Or if
I think. Well, as I mentioned before, I got that download and I created the 9 steps to quantum health transformation. So what that program does is it helps you. It helps you to create a physical environment. I call it the body temple. And so the body temple needs to have certain elements in order for us to have ascension or contact or things like that. Now, I know people have terrible diet and they have no problem making spiritual contact. I can't speak for them. I can only speak for me. So in the 9 steps of quantum health transformation, and by the way, you do step 9 first and step 1 last. So step 9, 8, and 7 are all about opening your mind. So step 9 is not only about opening your mind and seeing things in a more complex way. So instead of up or down, north or south, black or white, that's bullshit. Everything else is in the middle between those two, and learning to recognize it. But also doing shadow work where we get in touch with the less likable aspects of ourselves. Because until we have both our light and our shadow working together, we're only operating like trying to fly with only one wing. We're missing half that information. Step 8 is all about technologies like grounding and different things, like even affirmations that can help us. Those all help raise our frequency and open our mind. Then the next step is male-female integration. That's the yin-yang. Left side of our body's female, the right side is male. We need to learn how to integrate those energies, not run from them because we think we have to be gender specific. I'm not going to touch that topic. And then the middle three lessons, which is step 6, 5, and 4, is detoxification. Yeah. External detoxification, internal. What is real food? What isn't? Because 90% of what's sold in the supermarket is not real food. Nothing shuts you down your health and your natural ability to ascend than garbage that we think is food and it's not. Well, same as our cleaning products and our personal care products, and all of that needs to be looked at. And then also we need to learn how to detox emotionally, because all of our emotions are given to us for a reason, and we have a right. It's our birthright to have and express all of our emotions, and we learn how to express them in appropriate ways. And then we need to detoxify from the construct. And until we do that, we're still running under this programming that's undermining our ascension process. Then the last 3 steps. So first, you open your mind, then you detoxify your body and everything else, and then you're ready to start really getting somewhere. And then the last 3 steps are things like how to supercharge your manifestations, how to make them work for you. Some people are always trying to manifest something and then they give up and they start to manifest something else, and they end up with this energetic big mess. They never get focused. They don't know what they're doing. Also, how to create your own spiritual framework that you can hang everything on. So if you're into fairies, great. If you're into angels, or if you're Catholic, none, it doesn't matter. A spiritual framework is something that you create for yourself that's ideally suited to yourself. And within that framework, we start to make contact. And then the very last step is spiritual exercises, which really just teach you how to love. What is love? How can we express love? And that has to start with loving ourselves first. And most people do not know how to love themselves. So, that program is absolutely free, and it's for humankind, those who want to use it. Now, it's not the only way, it's a way. So what I recommend at the beginning of each video or, piece of information is that people keep an open mind, take the information in, and then use it as a jumping off point to go off and do something completely different that achieves the same goals. You don't have to be a vegan. You don't have to be a meatitarian. You don't have to be on any specific. You just need to know what's real food, what can our bodies use, and things like that. So that's sort of how, yes, these experiences have helped me in my ascension. And the more I do that, the more contact and easier it is.
I have a giant question. Do Canadians fluoride their water, fluoridate?
Oh, God, yeah. Not just fluoride and chlorine. They also put in all kinds of other things. Not to mention, they never filter out all the pharmaceuticals that people are peeing out and pooping out and dumping their pills down the toilet. That's never filtered out. All the hormones, all the waste from all the oil and gas and the farming.
So it's not just the food you eat, it's also the water you drink.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I buy spring water. I only drink spring water.
Right.
All right. Well, I have another question. I'm hoping to get through a bunch of these because we only have like 15, 20 minutes
Sorry,
left.
no, they don't allow us humans to get on the ship. Never going to happen.
But what if you reach, go through the whole ascension process? Some people.
If you do the work, if we do the work, and I'm not saying you got to be perfect, because I sure as the heck am not perfect. But when we're really trying to reach that next level of our evolution, then they can work with us. But until then, can you imagine if they just took all the people, out looting and fires and this and that, and they're going to put them on the big ship? I don't think so. Control.
I love you. You have cojones for telling the truth about that.
If we're not thinking about Well, I'm not doing this to be popular. I'm trying to
No,
help
just tell
people.
the truth.
You know,
That's
we
right.
don't have any control over our thinking, and we can't be present. We can't do it. What the hell is going to happen if you get a bunch of these people up onto the big ship? It's going
It's
to
not
be,
going to be pretty.
you're going to take
They
the
won't do it.
infection.
They
And
absolutely
that's
won't do
why
it.
I've been told that we on Earth are quarantined. So we're quarantined until we can learn how to behave ourselves. And so I guess, I don't know if we're limited to our solar system, or if it's a pretty small area compared to what's out there, right? So no, I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this, but
No, it's good. It's good news.
Yeah, listen to what they say. This is the absolute message from ET. Stop being a slave. Wake up. Learn to use your abilities. Detox your body. Detox your mind. Get away from being told everything, what to do. No negativity. Turn the TV off. Quit listening to them jibber jabber, because you're not listening if you do that. When you open your mind, you are listening to the universe talk at that point. ET can get through to you that way. And once you start that conversation, you're on your way. But that is their absolute message. Wake up. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, here's a question which kind of speaks to that, because here on Earth, we have money. And Robert Allen Yaffe is asking, do they have some form of money
no,
which can trade or bargain?
absolutely not.
No. There's no concept of money. There's more than enough of everything. Like everything at the end of the day, you just, whether if you're finished eating, whether it's your clothes you're wearing, whatever, it all goes into like a chute. Everything gets rendered down. They've got, it's like, if you can imagine, it's kind of like the ship's digestive system. Everything gets broken down. They've got bugs and stuff that live in there, and that's their job, and they're happy as can be. That's their environment. They break everything down. Then everything gets kind of 3D, what we would consider like 3D printed, fresh every day. And there's more than enough. But there is a lot of trade, because it's a cultural thing. It's a social cultural thing. If you really, and everybody loves each other. If someone really wanted my hat, I would just give them my hat. I can have a new hat. They can go make their own hat. Like,
yeah, no greed, nothing like that.
Nothing like that. Nothing. Money is a slaver's tool.
Yeah.
Instead of the whip, they goad you with money. They tell you, oh, you can buy this, and they make all the pretties for you to try to go and grab. And it takes all your attention away from the fact that you're now under their control. No money.
Yeah, money is the whip. But no, nothing like that.
Right.
That's would be a ridiculous concept to them.
Right.
So here is a related question to all this, which you've already kind of answered, and Dolly has certainly talked about this. Scarlet Fire is asking, will they save the current Earth from the cabal taking it over? No, I don't think so.
No, because we can do this ourselves. If you have a child and you do everything for them and they never have to learn anything, what's that child going to grow up to be? Basically a useless adult, right?
Right.
So the same thing goes with us.
We not only created this problem for ourselves, we allow it by not doing anything about it.
And we can fix it. And it's not even that hard. It's not even that hard to fix it. You just change yourself. You become the change you want to see in the world. And it catches on. It's contagious. And some people won't change. And I don't know what to say about them, but we can do this. We've got this. And they know we've got it.
We're all immortals. So, we might take us a million years to learn, but one of these days we'll incarnate and learn it. I have hope. I'm an optimist. Some people may eventually devolve, and that's their decision. Yeah. I feel like progress.
I will tell you this, Karen. I want you to hear what I say. Okay, there's coming a time in the future where they're hoping, this is not a proven thing because we have to prove it, where enough of us evolve, enough of us wake up, enough of us join together to be ready if they come. And when they come, they're going to know who you are, because you're going to communicate with them.
They'll know by our frequency.
Right.
They'll know by our frequency.
They will start rescuing people at that point. If you're ready for them, they'll rescue you at some point, and it is coming. It's in the future. They are not going to they're not going to stop everybody from doing bad things. They're not going to tell the governments, you're out of line, stop it now. They're not going to remove the nukes. They're not going to do any of that. We have to do it ourselves. Yep. And if you have any hope of wanting to be with them at all in this lifetime, in this iteration of this physical body you're in, you need to start working now. It's important. So,
You know, I get so many people who say, Karen, I want to be able to do what you do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And then when I say, well, take a look at your diet, take a look at, what you're thinking. Oh, no, I don't want to do all that. I just want to be able to do what you do. And I'm going, oh my gosh.
yeah, well, it's work. You can't be wise until you can wear and operate and employ what you learn. Okay, and learning is a chore. It's a job. I mean, heck, you worked a long time when you were a baby to learn how to walk. You worked a long time to learn how to read and write. You worked a long time to get enough education to get a job. These are all not easy things that you can do. You have the ability, everybody does. And using your mind and taking care of your body, which is a temple, you're exactly right. This is what we should do. And yes, it's hard work, but cushy lifestyles teach people to think everything needs to be handed to them, and it's not. There's coming a day where you might regret not doing anything in your life to help yourself. So think about that. So
yeah, don't wait too long, guys. Get on it. Really become the change you want to see in the world. The other thing too is you've probably all heard about the whole 100th monkey thing, where we don't need 52% of the world to wake up to change. No, we only need something like, I don't know, less than 10%. Once 10% is woke up, and we're getting there, whammo, everything is going to change. And then basically it's going to be like the little dog on the Wizard of Oz that pulls back the curtain, and we're going to see who's running things, and it's just all a big fake.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I see in chat some of you guys came in late, and you want to catch up, but you'll just have to watch from the beginning.
Watch the replay.
Yeah, we're talking with Karen Holton. She's a contactee, and she's talking about her experiences.
Yeah.
But go quick because we have a lot of questions.
I know. The one thing I want to
all.
emphasize here is that ETs, all of them throughout our universe, are autonomous beings. If you're highly evolved, you understand that we're each of us responsible for ourselves and what we do and what we say and how we act. All of us here are autonomous beings as well. And that makes us responsible for what we do, what we say, and how we act. And they are not going to take that autonomy away from us. It's the greatest lesson you learn. And you have to make choices. You're either going to leave this place not okay, or you're going to leave this place great and happy. And however you choose to leave this place is totally up to us. That's the autonomy. You can decide to just hang out and do nothing, and okay. But there are those who are going to choose another way, and they will. And we all have the right to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. All
right. Well, here's a question about the ship, and this came in at like 10 o'clock, so that's how far behind we are in the questions. No, here's from Robert Allen Yaffe, who's asking all kinds of wonderful questions. How does the ship provide the needed environment for the different species on board?
Well, first of all, we're all one species. We're just different races. So from Earth, we're humans. We are of the human. Yeah. We are of the human race. Okay. And so we're not different species. So we're not going to have that much difference, but there is some differences. And as you may have missed earlier when I was talking about the healing pods, that's the purpose of the healing pods, to condition us all so that we can be in a more neutral environment on the big ship.
Right. Every ethnicity of ET, and we're all humanoid, we all have DNA. Everything has DNA. If you're alive and living, you have DNA, and that's from the plants all the way up to us and above. And it is imperative for people to stop thinking of themselves as a species. A species is the only description that somebody on this planet used one day to describe the difference between us bipedal walking human beings and a dog. A dog, they say, is a different species. ET doesn't see it that way, but that's how we've been taught. It's incorrect. Absolutely no, it's a misnomer.
Yeah, that's what I loved, Karen, about you saying, oh, they're just people. I call them people because that's what they are. That's what we all are.
Some of us have great big lungs and can breathe in heavy amounts of air under huge, heavy gravity. Some places have very little gravity, and our great big lungs are not going to do as well there, and we have to condition to it. We have to get used to doing that. We also have to get used to the fact that the temperature is different. We have to acclimate. There's a lot of acclimating going on, and that's why the grounding. It takes a little while for us to acclimate to those environments, and it's a process. You're correct. So,
all right, here's a quick question from, well, I hope it's quick because I want to get through. When DGK is asking about the no violence bit, does that mean they won't defend themselves from wild fauna or micro meteors? Well, I assume yes, they defend themselves from.
Protect is the word. Defend is not a word.
More be in a situation where they wouldn't be, around wild animals and stuff like that. The other thing too is like a lot of people don't get it, that are the animals, even our pets, they have the full range of emotions. They love their young. They hurt. They feel hungry. They get their feelings hurt, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing is we can have like a non-verbal, almost a psychic connection with our pets. Well, when people resettle onto new planets and stuff, they can do a similar thing with the animals. So it's not the natural way for to be chased around by tigers and stuff, because literally the tigers on Earth would chase humans because they've probably been abused by humans. Like this is a completely different environment. It's like a total fresh start. So I don't know about I've never heard of anyone having to defend themselves from asteroids or, have to have weapons and have to fight. They're all very physically fit, but none of them work out. It's just their natural way of being, just regular body movement. Sex and orgasm does exist, and you're going to have to wait for the book because I got quite a bit to say about all that. Like I said, it's in the first 100 years that procreation, but there's sex without sex too. Like, for instance, they have the ability to basically throw the energy at another person and give them an orgasm energetically. There's a way of going mind to mind and producing an orgasm, or very similar to an orgasm. Also the heart chakra, heart to heart. Humans could do this if we were sexually mature, which we're not. And so there's that. And then there is, of course, good old fashioned intercourse, which is the preferred way for people to make babies, no matter at least all the beings that I met. And and then I did have a very unusual experience with an aquatic being, humanoid, but that you got to read for the book.
Okay.
All right. Well, Dolly talks in her experiences about how the ship gave her a name which she couldn't pronounce, so she calls him Talata. Robert Allen Yaffe's asking, did the ship have a name?
Yeah, Talara. And I say Talara because I roll my R's. I'm Swedish. And I speak Swedish first, so I'm in my head Swedish all the time. But yeah, his name is really long, and it's one little component of his name that I could pronounce. So that's what I call him. And it's only because I requested it. He doesn't really have a name, but that's what he thinks of himself as. And it's a description of himself. There is one other name that I know of, and I'm going to say it out loud to everybody. In the constellation of Orion, there is a homeworld for the tall grays. This is not the name of the world. It's how they feel about it. Everything is feelings. And they call it Aneoma. And it's just the home of the people. That's what that means, Aneoma. And that's how they refer to it. And they won't tell that to just anybody like I just did you, but that's how they refer to it. It is a feeling. It is you're one of the people. That's why the people here learned that from them. We are the people. They all are the people. So that's it.
But when I'm there, they don't call me Karen either. They call me impulsive, joyful, human.
Yeah.
So it's not, they don't use the words, but the concepts of impulsive, I'm impulsive, joyful, helper, human, because I always want to get involved in everything. That's roughly translated what they call me. But the other thing too is besides using telepathy, there is some gesturing, and depending on the being, some gesture more than others. But it really doesn't take long before you get the knack of it. There are assistive technologies that you can use. I didn't want to use them. I wanted to learn how to do it.
There you go.
All right. We only have time for just a few more questions because I want to give you some time, Karen, to talk about all the wonderful things you are offering people. But here's an important one, I think, coming from Janice Conant. Ever since Karen started talking, I've been experiencing a different smell around me, not floral or negative odor ever experienced before. Karen, have you experienced different smells while there? Which you actually talked about already.
Yeah, but the other thing too is some beings have very sensitive smell and some not so much, and we all have our own natural odors and stuff. So I just want to talk a little bit about the ship's respiratory system, which is like a ventilation system. And so there's something, I don't know what it is, but it comes out in little poofs. It's kind of like dust, and it sort of cleans everything and then gets sucked back into the system. So it's actually part of the ship's respiratory system. And so you don't notice a lot of odors. But if you go up to some of these plants and you just bury your face and have a good smell, you can absolutely smell them, But on a spiritual context, though, this is a little bit different here on Earth. If I'm making spiritual contact, sometimes I can sense smells. I definitely pick it up in my olfactory system. And I don't think I'm smelling a being. It's just a smell seems to be associated with the energetic experience of making contact.
You want to know what I learned from the tall grays? This is crazy, but it's true. They smell each other. That's how they greet. They put foreheads together and they inhale each other. And everybody has their own smell and they know who you are by your smell. And human mothers, it was brought to my attention when I had a baby. I was taught to catch the smell of my baby, that it's important for me to know what my baby smells like. I could pick her out of anywhere. And I did. And I learned also that human beings, us, are very related to the tall race, and that it's one of the things that we do. And it's very important to human beings to use their smell. Now, here's the other one. If you have a relative who passes and they're coming around you, you're going to smell them because
yes.
This is that person, and you associate it instantly with that person trying to speak.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to have to end it here. I wish I could get to more questions. Just this last one. Yes or no? Karen and Dolly, do you consider yourselves starseeds and light workers? Yes or no?
I would say no. I don't have a title. I don't represent those beings in any way. I'm not their grand poobah. I'm not their spokesperson. I'm nobody special. Right. I'm just Karen, just
trying to deliver a message. That's it.
Yeah, just trying to get it right. That's it.
Well, we're gonna have to pretty much stop here. I just want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about the products and services you offer in a minute or so. Can you?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, so I host two main podcasts. One of them is the Quantum Guide Show, and I interview people who have woke up, realized the world is not what they thought it was, and then they get through the shock and awe of it all, and then they put themselves to good purpose. So they might be doing, what Dolly does, or what Preston does, or they might be artists or musicians, or they might be researchers. And these people then are doing something good. And so I invite them on my show. Besides, it's just the greatest way to meet the most amazing people and make the bestest kind of friends, and they could live anywhere in the world. So there's that show. Then there is Aliens and Angels, and that is hosted by me, and it's more informal discussion, talking to other people who are experiencers, whether it's aliens or angels or something in that genre. Well, there's one of my orgone generators. So in order for me to do what I'm doing, I need some kind of an income. And so what I did is I didn't make them, a friend of mine made them for me, but I designed them and created what I wanted. And he made them for me. And I have these orgone generators. And I know people can go on Etsy and get probably orgone generators for $2 each, but they're not the same thing. These have been very carefully infused and entangled in amazing ways. I don't have time to really get into how they work or anything like that. But if you're interested in orgone generators, I have had the most amazing testimonials from people when they get one of my orgone generators. They have.
I'm going to have to cut you off because I don't want to go over our time.
Okay, I'm done.
Do this again, Karen. Absolutely. All right.
Okay. Thank you for having me on the show. And thank you, everybody. I love you all.
So, Dolly, you want to close us out?
Yep.
Got 1 minute.
Yes. Listening to the Light Gate, and we are on United Public Radio Network, coming from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM, and the United Paranormal Network at 105.3 FM. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys.